These are the 5 biggest scoping mistakes that you are making in your agency. At the end of the day, what ends up happening when our agency grows and we can't be involved in every single facet of how our project runs or how our company operates is that all of a sudden, little things start making really big waves. And I've seen agency owners really struggle with this over the life cycle of growing their company. There was a client I worked with a few years ago who, when we kind of cracked the hood and took a look at how they were scoping, how they were estimating some of their projects, and how they were working on them from a month-over-month basis, we found out he was 30% overutilized on his services, which meant he was over-delivering and losing money hand over fist, and he had no idea why. So what I've done is put together the 5 most common scoping mistakes that I see digital agency owners make over the last 6 years of supporting digital agency founders create more predictable, more reliable, and ultimately more profitable businesses. So let's jump in. The very first scoping mistake that I see is the estimation. The price is wrong from the jump. And a lot of agency owners struggle with, when should I raise my billable rate? How am I really packaging my services to make sure that the price is absolutely right? And so there's a couple of things that you can do, just back of the napkin math, that help you price your services appropriately. This will be kind of like the fuel that we put into the jet engine that ends up getting us to the destination that we need to get to, right? If we don't have enough fuel, then we see founders jumping in and burning the midnight oil and really deciding that they're going to save money on some of these projects by going behind the scenes and actually physically getting some of the work done. And we all know this, but the founder's hour is probably the most expensive to the organization. So it looks like from an actual hard cost perspective, we're saving a lot of money, when in actuality, there's a lot of opportunity cost and project cost in general that starts to pile up if we start to use this methodology. Additionally, I want to give this disclaimer before I jump into the specifics. Do not discount your services in times of slow conversions, because this is going to be the absolute death of a digital agency. There is fundamentally a hard cost in delivering your services. So if you think that because business is slow, in order to kind of, activate some people who've maybe been tire kicking or, reluctant to start a project with you, don't go ahead and discount your services by 30, 50% and think that you're going to have enough jet fuel to get you to where you need to go, right? You want to make sure that you're able to deliver a consistent, high quality service that actually is allowing your people to get paid the market rate that they deserve, and that you can take that profit and reinvest it into other areas of the business, like your marketing and filling your pipeline, so that you don't have to discount your services in the future. So let's get started with estimating. The really quick back of the napkin way to do this is to consider what is the average of all of the hours, or hourly rates, of all of your people that you work with. So if you are, costing your company $80, $100 an hour, if you have a research person or an SEO specialist or a media buyer whose hour is worth $50, $60, $70 to the agency, you want to average all of those up to consider what is the hard cost on your projects, right? What is going to be that average billable hour to the actual agency in order to pull this thing off? Second is to jump in and take a look at some of your past projects. See what you've been doing behind the scenes of these projects and consider how many actual total hours is this going to take us. If you are doing, a website build and you say, okay, average over the last 6 website builds, we've averaged 46 hours in total work billed to the client, or total work that we've had to pay for behind the scenes in the agency. That'll help give us a really solid estimate. A really great friend of mine, his name is Marcel Patapot. He runs a company called Parakeeto, and he has a fantastic estimator that I'll link below that you can actually plug in all of these details and you can get what the project price should be. He says that if you're aiming for about 70% gross margin on these services, then you will have more than enough to be able to pay your people and reinvest back into the growth of the experience and of your business overall. Second biggest mistake is on the onboarding process. Now, my goodness, scoping is such a challenge generally, but onboarding actually frequently gets missed. I say this to my clients all the time, but while we are slapping hands and, really celebrating inside of Slack that we've just closed a brand new deal that we're so excited about, our clients are wondering, can I trust this person? Did I make the right decision? Is this project going to go the way I think it's going to go? And what we need to do is, yes, celebrate with our team and get really excited about ushering somebody into a new phase of their digital landscape with us. But we need to make sure that they feel safe. We need to make sure that they feel welcomed, and we need to make sure that we have everything that we need to start the project off on the right foot. What this could look like is really creating an intentional onboarding process that is a little bit automated, right? So we've got some of the things that need to go out as soon as we sign the contracts, and a little bit personalized. I think that a lot of companies, when they start to onboard their clients, they start to go a little bit more toward the automation realm, because there are some standard things that need to be gathered from our clients in onboarding, right? Filling out the intake form, getting their logins, making sure they set up a Google Ad account or whatever it is that works for you. But what we do is we send them over a checklist, because we've done this 1,000 times, but they haven't. They haven't done this 1,000 times. They've either are starting to build their very first website, or they're just starting with Google Ads, and they're wondering, is this going to work? Is this company going to help me? And is this going to grow my business long term? And we want them to feel very, very secure in the decision of starting to work with us. I've actually seen onboarding processes impact retention rates more than any other process that I've personally worked on over the last 6 years at Operations Agency. This is critical. So make sure that they feel like they have access to you. They have access to the, information that they need to understand what the project looks like overall, and giving them a map is going to be hugely helpful. Here's what to expect. Here are the big milestones. Here's how we use our project management system. Here are the things that we need from you, and this is the timeline. That is going to be incredible. Third biggest scoping mistake that I see digital agencies make is on the project setup. So now we have the keys to the kingdom. We have everything that we need from our clients. We've even developed the initial strategy, perhaps, and now we need to go and set up all the nuts and bolts of the project behind the scenes in our project management tool. Now, this is where I see agencies kind of blunder, is that there's somebody on the team, usually with all the expertise up here in their brains, and they start to wireframe out the project, and they have a ton of tasks in there that might actually need a couple of subtasks or some context between each and every one. So I see founders do this all the time. They're their own project managers. They jump in and they outline the scope of the project, and then somebody comes in, reads it, and then they're like, well, what do we do between A and B and C and D and D and E? It's really, really, really challenging for somebody who doesn't have perhaps some of the industry expertise or can't make some of those big decisions between tasks to really come in and set up the project and make sure that everything is filled out properly, right? We want to have a system for how we set up projects, right? We want to make sure that every single task has a due date. Every single task has a person assigned or somebody that might need to actually be responsible for completing this. And bonus tip and upgrade that you can make to your project setup process is really to define who might be consulted when the task comes down the pike. If I am an individual contributor in an agency and I'm responsible for doing keyword research, but I'm actually pretty new and I don't have a ton of support perhaps on how to do this or how it's done really effectively, I might actually want to grab 30 minutes or grab 15 minutes with the founder or read a couple of articles that maybe we can position in front of them. So this is how you upgrade the project setup and make sure that everything, every resource that we could need or every piece of clarity that we could possibly want could actually be woven into the way we do projects. This will up-level things in your agency. Fourth biggest scoping mistake that I see digital agencies make is on project maintenance. Now, let me say this. Project maintenance is just like, being in a position to be in really good health and develop really great habits. It's really common, at least from my experience working with digital agencies, that project setup can go really great, but then for whatever reason, project maintenance starts to fall through the cracks. So what happens is we create this beautiful project outline and this really solid clarity with strategy, and we know what's coming down the pike, but then we actually don't check in on it on a consistent basis because we don't have anybody dedicated to that function of the agency. And our projects collect dust. They are not a source of truth. They are not something that we can return to help us understand where the project is or what still needs to be done or what we need from the client. And it actually creates a lot of operational drag in the company. So creating a plan around project maintenance is huge. First and foremost, you want to identify one person for each project who is that person, that person who comes in, takes a look at the tasks, updates all of the deadlines. It's very true that something's going to fall off, right? So something's going to get pushed back a week. Something's going to come in a little bit later or even move a little bit faster than we had originally planned. So making sure that we're updating the due dates, making sure that we're updating the people responsible. If somebody's out on vacation, if somebody is in a position where they need a little bit more time to do something and create that feedback loop, it's going to be huge and really, really important for us to do that for our team. Second thing is to make sure that there is a consistent cadence through which projects are maintained. Now, I know this sounds super boring, but I promise you it will be a game changer for you. If you are a founder, I bet you have done that thing where you jump into Slack at like 2 p.m. and you're like, where's this? What is the status on that? How did this get shipped? Where's the active link for yada yada? And it's really, really hard to be that person. And to be honest, nobody wants to be that person. We never want to log in and say, oh, wow, what's the status on all of these things? And then go blow up our team and ask them 1,000 questions about where things are at when your team's probably over here like, we shipped that a week ago and the client approved it, right? We want to make sure that we can check in on the progress of projects as they are actually moving in our agency. And updating our projects either once or twice per week, or at least doing a sweep once per month if you're on a retainer basis with a client and say, hey, listen, we shipped all these things, we're clean for the month, and then we'll start focusing on next month's content. It will be a game changer. Fifth, and final, scoping mistake. And I threw this one in because there could easily be 4, but this is a huge one I see for my digital agencies is revisions. Revisions. You lob something back to the client and then you ask them, what do you think? It's too open-ended. Your clients don't know what to tell you. They don't know what feedback to give, and they can't possibly understand the ramifications of taking 2 weeks to review something and then get you some meaningful feedback on it. Revisions are some of the bane of the existence of the digital agencies that I work with, especially the creative agencies. They have a really hard time sometimes lobbing something back out to the client, asking an open-ended question, and then getting crickets for days because your client doesn't know how to direct their attention. They don't know how to communicate their edits, and they sure don't know the impact that it will have on the project if it's not turned around in a timely manner. So what you should do is create a rubric through which you accept feedback from your clients as it relates to revisions. And what I mean by that is when you give them, a concept, a logo, or even a social media graphic or a blog post graphic, you need to tell them, hey, listen, what do you like about this and what don't you like? Be specific. And here are the following areas that I think we need to start to address some feedback. If it's visual, right? Do you like hard lines or soft lines? If it's a voice, if you're writing a blog on their behalf, you can say, hey, listen, do you like this voice or do you like this voice? And you can even position revisions and opportunities for feedback earlier on in the process, create a little beta for them or a little version 1 so that when you go to tackle some of the larger things, you can get that approval and make sure that you're moving forward timely. So absolutely create a rubric for feedback and how to address revisions. These are the 5 biggest scoping mistakes I see digital agency owners make. If you want the comprehensive list and everything you can do to combat this in your agency, go ahead and drop a comment below and I will send you my 5 biggest scoping mistakes report and how you can fix them. Thanks so much for joining me today on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.